What's up guys, unofficial Star Wars here. Hope you're all doing well, and in this video we are going to be discussing a new reveal and a new big tease for the possibility and potential from Dave Filoni himself, mind you, the chief creative officer apart at Lucasfilm, for just about everything that's been going on with Star Wars in the recent last couple of years. Yes, that includes the Acolyte, but that's for another discussion, for another video here on the channel. All the more reason to grab that subscribe button. Anyway, in this video we are going to be discussing how recently Dave Filoni has teased this idea and the possibility of a potential R-rated Star Wars project coming to a galaxy far, far away, saying that it would have to be done really, really well. Of course, we're going to go ahead and hop right on into it, breaking it all down for you guys, everything that we know and everything that we're anticipating right now. Before we do though, however, grab that subscribe button if you haven't already, as we're discussing and covering all types of Star Wars related news, leaks, rumors, theories, and breakdowns here on the channel. So if you guys are into any of that, go ahead and grab that subscribe button today. Okay, so in this video we are going to be taking a quick read from HollywoodReporter.com. I'll have their article linked in the description down below for you guys to check out there, as well as an overall garnering source. So as I had just revealed there, and as their headline reads and overall article reads, Dave Filoni weighs in on the possibility of a potential possible R-rated Star Wars project, saying that it would have to be done really, really well. And as I had also mind you that Dave Filoni is Lucasfilm's chief creative officer, saying that the decision always hinges on whether or not that idea is going to be well executed, like if it's actually going to be done right, essentially. Like, it can't come off corny or cheesy, I think is what it really boils down to. Dave Filoni isn't ruling anything out when it comes to Star Wars, necessarily, and an R-rated project, but Lucasfilm's chief creative officer said that this last week that an R-rated installment of the George Lucas originated franchise would really be quite interesting. Just the thought of it and him kind of talking about that, I think, is very much so interesting, and it has that potential to lead in that direction in the near future, especially given some of the more recent Star Wars projects and titles that have come out in the last couple of years now are having Dave Filoni in this position over at Lucasfilm as well, saying that they're, in quote, "Sure, I mean, I don't know, I think it would be interesting," Filoni said of the possibility of an R-rated installment during an interview on the Happy Sad Confused podcast. He also goes on to mention that the bottom line is whatever we do, it has to be done really well. Ending that quote right there. And I definitely think that is on the side of things of that's definitely a direction that Lucasfilm is headed towards. Like, there's definitely a quality control that's been going on, especially after a lot of that backlash from the sequels, and I think there's going to be even more of that kind of quality control, especially here after the Acolyte, as I kind of touched on there towards the beginning of this video. As I had also mentioned, I think that's just a discussion for a whole nother video here that we'll discuss here on the channel, of course, but also that R-rating consideration comes of a mouth before Marvel's Deadpool and Wolverine movie hits theaters, which is underneath the Disney umbrella, as well as Star Wars is as well, by which, if you are a Marvel fan, we have our Marvel channel linked in the description down below for you guys to check out there as well. The studio's first R-rated movie, a part of Disney technically in the Disney umbrella side of things. Star Ryan Reynolds said recently that he is really quite proud of Marvel for allowing this rating and for them to do that project. It's a huge step for them. It adds a whole lot of color to this kaleidoscope wheel that is that company and the different people that they have been entertaining forever. Ending that quote right there from Ryan Reynolds. Now, considering on here back to the side of Star Wars, Filoni said that he has similar considerations for Star Wars, especially in the recent, saying that they're, in quote, "I think when you look at something that is taken as different, like Andor, for example, it's so well done, and Tony Gilroy, the Andor showrunner and director, writer, and his team do such a phenomenal job with it, that I think that there's an audience for that kind of specific niche." I think also with what that audience, I also kind of thought and Tough would want there to still be hitting the imagination of the kids out there as well at the same time, kind of that perfect blend, so that they can grow up and appreciate those things all at the same time. Ending that quote right there, I think that's something that really comes back full circle to with how George Lucas started the franchise. I think when you look at the prequels, it's in the original trilogy, both of those trilogies, those are projects that work on both sides of scales of things, because they, sure, mind you, they aren't necessarily R-rated, but they work for both adults and for young kids alike, and when those young kids grow up, they're able to appreciate them on a different level side of things as a bit more action. I think that's added onto there, that you're able to see when you're a bit more mature. Aside from that, Dave Filoni also adds that the franchise encompasses all types of styles, and the creative of all particular story driving is the most important thing, and that they should do something that's within their comfort zone. Otherwise, you're going to imagine that everyone's going to come in and pretend that they're George Lucas. Ending that quote right there. It's a very solid thing as a much more wider spectrum of things, and something that really much, honestly, something I'd like to talk about in another video here on the channel, but it's something that not everybody can come in and just be George Lucas. Essentially, you kind of are putting your own spin on the franchise, and that goes for all new creatives, especially the directors and the writers that have been working on newer Star Wars projects or on some of those newer Disney projects. And in a weird way, it's kind of what everyone, like, not everyone, but like a lot of the more newer writers and directors for Star Wars projects may try to lean into a little bit too much, and they just aren't doing their own original thing at the same time, not putting their own original spin on a given Star Wars project. Filoni elaborates more on that, saying that he's learned from George, but certainly he's not the same as George when it comes to making the movies and those projects. He's one of a kind, generational kind of talent. I like wolves and put them in my Star Wars, he says, for example. We're just different, and that's okay, but there are principles about choices and being a good person and being more selfless and getting over your fears, and those are timeless, and no matter what style you're talking about. Ending that quote right there. I think that last part there especially really just goes into the consideration of that Star Wars has its core values. Like, there's like a certain amount of boxes you may have to check off for any given story, and that not all Star Wars stories are going to need that R rating. Like, the story just wouldn't fit it exactly. It's like taking and comparing and contrasting the Book of Boba Fett to Andor. Clearly, one's more grittier. One fits more of that volume of what an R rating would really consist of. And it's not just that, the style of the filmmaking, but it also really boils down to the actual story of itself. What's the actual story actually really about? Of course, there have been those potential possible talks out there of a Boba Fett story, a Boba Fett movie before the show, having that being rated R, but that's something that's just kind of past due at this point. In consideration, I'm kind of talking about Andor being the one that would take on that R rating lead. Aside from all this, guys, R-rated Star Wars projects, what do you guys think? I would love to hear, and really would love to know what you guys all think in the comments down below. What kind of projects would you want to see? Of course, aside from the given a Vader spin-off movie or show, something along those lines, of course, I think we all can agree would be really quite awesome. Anyway, guys, of course, I would love to hear what you guys are all thinking in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching today's video. Of course, this has been Unofficial Star Wars. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great one. May the Force be with you as always. Peace out.